Antony Blinken there. Let's get more on this from Ibrahim Al-Assil. He's a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for your time. Of course, Antony Blinken has worked with Joe Biden for a long time. People say you really can't see daylight between them. What he's proposing, though, is likely to be very different from the Trump administration, also different from the Obama administration by the sound of it.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Mike. It's absolutely different. Everything we're hearing so far sounds very different from both the previous administration, the Obama administration, and the Trump administration. In the Obama administration, we saw that President Obama didn't really include the U.S. Regional allies and partners in the negotiations with Iran, and they didn't take their perspective into account. And then with Trump, it was really unpredictable. And President Trump was also very biased, and all decisions were not really calculated. We hope that this time, this administration will find a balanced approach towards the region where it actually try to find a solution for the nuclear problem with Iran, but at the same time, it doesn't just alienate all the partners or the allies in the region, but include them in the negotiations.
What do you think is likely to happen with Iran, if anything? I think there are more hardliners perhaps likely to be in power in Iran, and probably very unimpressed with the way the nuclear deal turned out for them. Are they likely to want to enter any new agreement?
The hardliners in Iran didn't hide their regret that they allowed Iran to go into the nuclear agreement with the U.S. in 2015. And now they are more influential. In June of this year, we'll have new presidential elections, and it might bring a former officer from the Revolutionary Guard to be president. All of that will make the mission of Biden to go back to the agreement or to sign a new agreement with Iran even more difficult, because even if the Biden administration wants to reach a new deal with Iran, that doesn't mean Iran necessarily wants to have a new deal with the United States, especially that the United States left the agreement, and the situation now on the ground is totally different from what it was in 2015.
Is it likely there'll be much of a change in the relationship between the US and Israel, much of a change in the situation for the Palestinians?
That's a very important question. I think the Biden administration has a very good opportunity to push the conflict between the Israeli and the Palestinian into a positive direction. Also, the Trump administration didn't really achieve a good advancement in the file. It abandoned the Palestinians, and that wasn't a good choice. So far, we heard from the Biden administration that they will reinstate the aid, the humanitarian aid for the Palestinians, and that's very important. First, it's important from the humanitarian perspective, but it's also important from the U.S. interest perspective, because it increases the leverage for the United States over the Palestinians. Also, it shows the Israelis that the U.S. won't take side in these negotiations. Now, the position of the United States is not great, because it doesn't have credibility because of the position of the Trump administration, in particular towards that file. But so far, we're hearing some good steps from the Biden administration, and I believe they can really create a credibility or a credible environment for negotiations between both sides, the Palestinians and the Israelis.
Sounds like we'll be back to you on this as these stories develop. Thank you very much, Ibrahim Al-Assil.
Thank you.